Our Sunday three gamer is turned into a Sunday Monday three gamer. So we got some big stuff we got to talk about on this show. Glad we waited, Tyson, because we would have ended up doing a two gamer here for the Sunday slate. But just so everybody is aware, Bills Pittsburgh is on the slate. It's locking Monday, despite it being a Sunday three gamer. You want to
Yep.
get into this one?
Let's do it, man. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, we've got a three-gamer now. It says I labeled this down here as a Sunday three-gamer. Technically, that's what it's saying on Draftkings, even though now we know Steelers, Bills has been moved to Monday at 4:30. I don't know if they add another like Monday two-game slate. We'll have to figure that out. If they do, maybe we do a show on that instead of just the showdown. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. But let's jump into this. Let's just move right along here. So we'll show you some screenshots here. Our buddy SRT41 in the Discord reached out to DraftKings, and they answered back pretty quick. While this game has now been moved to 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Monday, all contest slates containing this game will run as normal. The only difference will contests, blah, blah, blah. It'll start on Monday now, and we even see in the contest details that that game is on Monday, and it's still on the slate. So just worth mentioning, the weather, it's still not going to be sunny and 75. It's still going to be shit weather, just not nearly as bad. And I think at this point, like the fans being able to actually get to the game is actually going to be possible. All right, so let's just jump into this, dude. Let's talk about this first game here now. This is now the first game. What is that? 4:30 Eastern on Sunday. We got Packers and Lions. This is a 50-point total. Packers going into Dallas. Thoughts on this matchup, dude? Like, what Packers team shows up? We know that Jordan Love has been crushing over the second half of the season. He's been very efficient. He's second in touchdown passes behind Dak Prescott. Hasn't made a ton of mistakes. Hasn't thrown a lot of interceptions. What team shows up? Like, this feels like Dallas, Dallas has been notoriously not necessarily the best playoff team. But they're at home. They're undefeated at home this year. They put up a shitload of points, and they're going up against a bad Packers defense. I think we can all agree that, despite maybe their strength in some of their pass rushing, Packers defense it seems like, unless Dak just comes out and has a terrible game, this feels like an absolute 30-plus point output for Dallas. But the biggest question is, can the Packers put up some points? Thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, man, this is an interesting one. Obviously, the narrative here is Mike McCarthy playing his old team. Dallas should win this one that pretty handily. Their home road splits are pretty significant just offensively. At home, they score a shitload of points, and they're a really good team. On the road, Dallas is just an average football team. Obviously, a little bit better than that, but, just hyperbole sake. That said, man, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers were able to sneak one out. I think it's important to note that they don't have anything to lose here, right? Jordan Love's in his first year starting. Their roster has been littered with injuries throughout the season. So, look, there's really nothing for the Packers to lose here. The Cowboys have everything on the line. They're one of the best NFC teams. There's a lot of pressure on them. They moved on from Kellen Moore. This was supposed to be a year that their offense took a next step, right? They need to win a playoff game, or I think this might be the end of the Dak Prescott era. I think there's a lot of implications from this game specifically. If Dallas doesn't win, and I just think it's important to remember that the Packers just have absolutely no pressure. But the Cowboys should still win this, man.
I think at minimum, with all these amazing head coaches available, you could see McCarthy let go or something. Even though, look, like we like to talk shit about McCarthy. Like, I think he's an above average coach, but his biggest weakness comes out and it really hurts his team when he doesn't know how to manage these games and the clock at the end of the game. Yeah, man, I feel like the Cowboys should win this, but the Packers are a big wild card to me. I would not be surprised if they did put up a show and kept this close. It's a 7-point spread. I think that the fact that the Cowboys can run their offense in silence and really get that cadence down, from Dak, and they can communicate and change plays. I think that's pretty huge as to why they're so successful at home. Their offensive line has been pretty good. You know, they're ranked 8th according to PFF. Now the Packers' offensive line ranked 11th, but they're the 3rd best in sacks given up. They're pretty good when it comes to, you know, stopping opposing teams' pass rush. When you look at the Cowboys' pass rush, 42% quarterback pressure percentage is first, and 33% blitz rate. So they're going to bring the pressure. We know about Micah Parsons. We obviously know what's going on there. So that's, you know, let's see what happens with the Packers' offensive line if they can stop shit. What jumps out to you matchup wise? We're not going to get too super deep into this since we got 3 games, but on paper, feels like, man, you can utilize every skill position player for Dallas going up against this pretty bad Packers defense. And, you know, their run defense has improved slightly since, you know, mid-year when we were all like attacking this run defense, but they're still a target. And Tony Pollard, I feel like, could be a decent play.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think the biggest thing, obviously, we know about all the other options that the Cowboys have on offense, but I think the big thing that we need to be mindful of is what we want to do with Tony Pollard. It just he hasn't been played much this season because he hasn't necessarily had the fantasy upside that we've been looking for. But he's one of the better running backs on a slate. He's playing in the dome, right? I know the Bills or the Bills game, we could have an interest in some of the running backs there. But I don't know, man. I don't know how you avoid a guy like Tony Pollard on a game with a 50+ point total inside of a dome.
And you know, the Packers run defense, man, they should be able to target that for sure, especially if we think that this is, you know, double-digit type lead game for them. Maybe we see a little bit more Tony Pollard involved, but you know, you can't rule out guys like Rico Dowdle, and you know, like we can get some potential value. But I don't think I'm playing Rico Dowdle on a 3-game slate. But if you're playing Showdown, it'd be interesting to toy with that as well. Let's move on to the next game here. We'll get into injuries altogether. This Sunday night game, this is probably going to be the one of the better games we're seeing for the whole playoff weekend. A lot of narratives here. Rams obviously going into Detroit hosting its first playoff game in a long-ass time. And you got the Stafford, you got the Goff narrative. Can McVay, you know, with all his knowledge on Jared Goff, game plan him to sort of confuse him and make him have problems? When you've coached a guy that long, you probably know his strengths and weaknesses quite a bit. Thoughts on this matchup, dude? It's a 51.5 point total. We've got 2 games on this slate that are over 50 point total, and we got a weather game now that's creeping up to around a 38 point total. But it feels like these 2 games are going to be really targeted to stack, and I don't think you should avoid it. There's probably other ways to get different. Thoughts on this matchup?
This is a very interesting matchup to me. I like Detroit. I think Detroit's in a great spot, and I'm kind of just happy to see them successful, make the playoffs, win the division. But I think we can't lose sight of what the Rams are, who their head coach is. Sean McVay is an excellent head coach, man. You've got Cooper Kupp, you've got Puka Nacua, you've got Kieran Williams or Kyron, however you want to say it. Like, I don't know, man. You have a lot of young guys. Like we were talking about this shit the other day. You have a lot of young guys who are playing for what's probably one of their idols, right? They watched Matt Stafford. A lot of these players watched Matt Stafford over the past decade, right? Like these guys are in their early 20s. So they were 12 when fucking Matt Stafford started playing. And their earliest memory of him might be him breaking his collarbone and still winning that game in Detroit, right? So like this is, I don't want to get caught up too much in narratives, but we talk about this shit mattering in the NFL. You made it this far. You have Matt Stafford. You have an elite offense. Like this is what did Julian Edelman say, or one of those wide receivers say for about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? He said, we came to work for Bill Belichick, but we played for Tom. And that's kind of the scenario that you're looking at here. I really think the Rams could make a late run. Just in the playoffs in general. And I think they could sneak out of this game with a win.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree, man. Like, which Detroit team shows up? Like, I think it's pretty obvious that Detroit's defense is a big weakness, but you look at their run defense, they're one of the best in the league at stopping the run. But they have been lit up in the pass game. And if you give me Goff versus Stafford in a game where both defenses will give up pass yards, I got to take Stafford. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Detroit won this game. I get it. You know, the Rams are a relatively young team. They've got a bunch of rookies that are being relied on right now. But to me, I feel like a guy like Stafford can come out and play well against a bad Detroit pass defense. This offense, though, their offensive line for Detroit, one of the top in the league, man. Can't deny that. So, this pass rush for the Rams is going to have a hard time. And you look at the Rams offensive line, not nearly as good as this Detroit line. But some of these matchups here, let's look at the coverage rankings here. According to PFF, we've got the Rams 31st in coverage and Detroit Lions at 29th in coverage. There's gonna be a lot of passing yards. There's gonna be a lot of points put up. But if you look at the run games here, the run defense, they're both ranked in the top 10 for run defense. So what really jumps out to you here? What matchups can we expose? This feels like a game that, obviously we're going to want to get to some Kyron Williams, or we're going to want to get to some Jahmyr Gibbs. But it feels like an Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp type game where we could stack up these pass offenses quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So Detroit's a weird team. They're one of the few teams that allow more points at home than they do, well, never mind. They're very close at home versus away. Sorry, I sorted wrong, but they allow 21 points at home. So like I do think that this is a game that we really need to stack up offensively. And look, man, like I don't want to overemphasize this, but it's just so hard for me not to want to just stack up Stafford and this passing a game against the Lions defense. You can run it back with so many options on the Detroit side. And I mean, look, if we're talking about this slate too, two out of the three games are dome games. So we all know the third game is going to be largely targeted for running backs, defenses, and maybe well, you don't do kickers. This isn't showdown. So like we know that these two games are going to be chalky. So we're going to have to come up with different ways to kind of stack up LA, Detroit, so that we're not doing the same thing as everybody else. And honestly, I think that's going to be as simple as going Matt, Puka, and Cooper Kupp, maybe even and Kyron Williams, and then trying to run it back with Detroit. So, yeah, man, look, I think this is a very important one to stay on top of. Just really kind of the matchups, and just remember that they're playing in the dome, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like these two games, I feel like a lot of people are going to try to sprinkle in from these first two games, like, get your Cowboy stacks, get your Detroit Lions stacks, your Ram stacks, or whatever. But maybe going heavier game stack and hoping that maybe one of these two dome games just kind of is blah and maybe hits the under could be a way to massively get these high ownership games in there. Just stack the stack the shit out of it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna game stack the shit out of these games, dude. And kind of what we talked about on some of our other like two gamers. This is one that I'm almost considering a two gamer with just pieces from the third game that I'm comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Like this is one where I think you overstack, especially given the totals and the dome. I think you can get crazy with your Rams line stack. Instead of a normal 3-1, run a 4-2, run a 4-3. Like who gives a shit?
Yeah. Like our strategy has slightly changed because that weather was going to be so terrible. That total was creeping down almost into the 30-point range before they changed it. Now we've seen that total for that game move up to around 39. I still think it's a situation where we can, focus in mostly on these defenses and run games, but now that it's not as massively crazy with the snow, it's still possibly going to snow. But I don't know that we can bank on that as much now. You see the total here. We'll get into this. This game obviously got moved to Monday at 4:30. You see the total is now at 37.5. I've seen some places where it's like 39, 38. It's a 10-point spread now. You used to be a 9-point spread, which makes sense because if you put both of these teams together, clearly the better team is Buffalo, and you add crazy weather into the situation. Well, now the Steelers have, the Steelers like that. The Steelers are going to be able to run the damn ball in this game, you'd think. Now that we're talking about this game being on Monday, what strategy stuff changes for you? This is going to be the last game on the slate now, as opposed to being the first game. Do you rely on late swap here and leave a couple lineups open that target this game for game stacking here and get some leverage on the field? Maybe what's your strategy now that we've changed things?
Yeah, I don't know if my strategy is changing all that much because I was still gonna talk myself into playing a low-owned Josh Allen and Buffalo Bills, right? Regardless of the weather. Like when we're looking at these weather reports, and I don't want to get too much into this, we're talking about a region. We're not talking about like directly over the stadium. So, like, unless you're looking at radar and you're paying attention to exactly where the clouds are above the stadium, like there is some ambiguity in what we're looking at. We're talking about like the city of Buffalo. Their weather reporters aren't talking about the Buffalo Stadium specifically, right? And you can go online. I did a little bit of research this morning. Like obviously, the 24-hour weather report it's going to cover some of it, but as we get closer to lock, just keep an eye on some of the radar, right? If there's a bunch of clouds over there and you think it's going to snow again, then we might run into it. But I think that the weather might have been a little bit overblown in the first place. These are professional athletes. They've been playing in the shitty weather this whole time. A lot of this is more because fans couldn't make it to the fucking stadium and it's a playoff game. They want fans to be there so that the NFL can get their money. So look, man, I don't think you overthink it. Worst case scenario, Josh Allen's going to end up with 3 rushing touchdowns anyway. So look, I think you open some spots up, you run some naked Josh Allen stacks, and then you do reserve a little bit just in case this game clears up. You do have a very, very explosive offense in the Bills. So look, man, I don't think you can completely sleep on it. And because it's been pushed off another day, I think there's a little bit of leverage to be had by reserving some lineups to make sure that you have stacks of this game.
And the biggest difference between Sunday and Monday, obviously is going to be the chance of snow and the wind. So if we're really seeing wind drop from 25 mile per hour constant wind to around 15, maybe this is a whole different sort of attitude. But we got to wait to see kind of what's going on here. They locked shit down. Apparently, there's a stay-at-home order after like 9 p.m. on Sunday night. So it was serious enough that they didn't want to risk the fans, obviously. But I don't know how much I really am changing my opinion on this game. It's still going to be shit weather. We're still going to see, the run games involved. And, maybe I consider getting to a little bit more Diggs or some of these other wide receivers from the Bills. But I think we're still targeting Najee Harris. We're still targeting James Cook. We're still targeting even naked stacks with fucking Josh Allen, man. That could be an interesting way to handle this. So let's actually get into injuries here. Anything else to talk about with this game? Like it's pretty obvious that the Bills are should win this game. They should win this game. The pass rush for the Bills is pretty damn good. Their run defense is not as good, but their pass defense is pretty damn good going up against Mason Rudolph. Before I get into injury, sorry, I didn't want to skip too far ahead. Thoughts on Mason Rudolph in this game? If the weather's clearing up a little bit, like any interest in a couple of Mason Rudolph sacks? I don't think I'm going that route. I think I'm probably just taking pieces from the Steelers side.
Yeah, I think you can. Again, this is GPP. If you want to get weird, I think you're welcome to do any of that. But just for what it's worth, the Buffalo defense is the second best defense at home. They allow 14.8 points a game, and just for reference, Cleveland allows 13.9. We know how good Cleveland defense has been at home all year long, right? So I think it's really easy to get lost in kind of just the insufficiencies that we've seen, or inconsistencies, I guess, that we've seen on the offense side of Buffalo. I wouldn't overread this, man. Like Mason Rudolph is not in a good spot. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not been a good team all year. Yeah, they had a little bit of a run, but I don't know that they're going to be able to continue that against the Buffalo Bills, especially at home in the bad weather with the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL.
The last thing I'll say here is, to me, this feels like a situation like I'm not super interested in Mason Rudolph. I'll get a couple, maybe 1 or 2 lineups out of 100 plus with him. But my thought is Mason Rudolph has been on fire, and they can't bench a dude who's won 3 straight games and let him to the playoffs. As soon as there's a moment in this game where they've gone, 3 straight 3-and-outs, and the dude can't complete a pass, if that happens, I would not be surprised if they put in Pickett, because he was playing well before he got injured. So, I would not be surprised if that happens, but who knows? Like, I'm not going to go super heavy on Mason Rudolph anyways, and I'm not playing any Pickett. I'm just saying that there's a chance if this shit gets out of hand, they might put Pickett in, because why not? Let's get into injuries here.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
So let's start with this game. So the Bills are obviously a little bit banged up. We know about Matt Milano and a lot of these other guys that have gone out this season. Taylor Rapp, their safety, is out officially. Gabe Davis is out officially. That's kind of a big deal. But if we look at their defense, Tyrell Dodson, who's one of the better rated linebackers in the league, he's rated third according to PFF. He's questionable. We might not see him. And Rasul Douglas, which is the bigger news here, is questionable. He's been a DNP all week. No Bills players who missed all 3 practices in a week was active for the game. So looks like Rasul Douglas is probably going to be out. We saw him got hurt last week. A guy like Dane Jackson replaces him. He's getting most of his snaps out wide, which is where Rasul Douglas was playing. But you still got Johnson, you still got Benford, who are pretty solid cornerbacks. You throw Dane Jackson in there, that's a little bit of a wild card. But this defense is a little bit banged up here. When it comes to Steelers, we know about TJ Watt. That's a huge damn deal. Looks like Minkah Fitzpatrick and Landon Roberts are off the injury report. They'll be back. But without TJ Watt, man, this team, that's a big deal for this team. It really is. Let's move over to this other game here, the Rams and the Lions. So Sam Laporta, when we recorded that first look show, it didn't look like Sam Laporta was going to play. There's a chance he plays. If he does play, he's probably going to be, pretty banged up, but he's going to be out there for a playoff game potentially. He was a full participant in practice on Friday, which is a big deal. It might, I'm kind of leaning towards he plays, but how useful will he be when he's that banged up? On the other side here, Tyler Higbee is questionable. You got Jordan Fuller questionable. There's some other guys on defense here that are questionable for the Rams, but generally speaking, nothing massive here, and we got to kind of wait to see what happens. Anything jump out to you here? Khalif Raymond's going to be out, which is kind of a big deal. Jamison Williams looks like he should be fine. Anything else jumping out to you besides not Frank Ragnow, but Sam Laporta?
No, Sam Laporta is probably the biggest one. Obviously, him being questionable and not out is huge.
All right, let's move on to this first game here. So Luke Musgrave is back. He played last week a little bit. He was eased into his snaps. Do we see him now take over that role that he started the year out? We see, equal snaps between him and Kraft. I don't know, but worth mentioning that Luke Musgrave is active, and he's pretty cheap. Both of those tight ends are pretty cheap. Questionable, really the only questionable guy for Dallas is Cooper Rush, the backup. That doesn't really mean anything to us. Looks like Tyler Smith will be back. Stephon Gilmore was a DNP earlier, but it looks like he's going to play. So that's the biggest news to me for defense-wise for the Cowboys. If Stephon Gilmore is out there, that's a big deal. Jair Alexander is questionable. He was a DNP. He's been in the news. I think he got suspended for a game, 2 weeks ago? That's kind of a big deal. You want to see him out there. A.J. Dillon is doubtful, probably not going to play. So this is another Aaron Jones situation, man. He's been looking good. He's got over 100 yards in the last 3 games. Christian Watson being questionable, he seems like he could play this game. He's limited. And I think with all these talented wide receivers for Green Bay, I don't know that Christian Watson gets a ton of ownership with guys like Jaden Reed and Bo Melton, and there's plenty of options for these wide receivers, Romeo Doubs. But to me, if Christian Watson's active, I'm gonna probably lose some money playing him. Thoughts on this situation here if Watson's active?
In general, I don't think the Packers are going to garner enough ownership, just given the fact that they're in a 50+ total. So I think all these guys are in play, especially Christian Watson. He's going to be low owned. He's been questionable for forever now. And then A.J. Dillon being doubtful, that's huge, man. I've been doing a shitload of playoff best ball, and I keep ending up with Aaron Jones. So that makes me a little happy.
Yeah, man. We know about this Cowboys defense that they can crush. They're good against the pass. They're good pass rush. You can run the ball on them a little bit. We'll see how this game goes, man. Like Jordan Love could come out and put up some points against this defense that's overall good, but I think they're pretty consistent. I think you can come out and score some points on them, but they are at home, so that makes a big difference. All right, let's get into this breakdown, dude. Let's do it. Break it down. All right, so let's start with quarterbacks here, like we usually do. Josh Allen's $8K, Dak Prescott $7,600. Matt Stafford 65, Jordan Love 63. Look at Jared Goff all the way down here at 6,200, and then you got Mason Rudolph, who's way cheap. I don't know that I'm going that route. What are we doing quarterback here, Rise? Man, obviously, Josh Allen has high upside, and he's got 15 rushing touchdowns this year, dude. James Cook has 2 rushing touchdowns, so we know how this goes. And in a situation where the ball is going to be ran a lot, it's a playoff game, you're not holding anything back, you have to assume that Josh Allen is going to get involved in the run game and probably get a rushing touchdown. Is that enough for us to play Josh Allen at 8K with all these wide receivers, all these running backs, all these dudes that we want to stack up that are expensive? I don't know, man. He's going to be under 10% owned potentially. We got to wait for updates on this now. But, with the game getting moved, maybe he's slightly more popular than that. But who's your favorite guy here, man? It's Matt Stafford, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff. These guys are all in play for me.
Yeah, so look, from a GPP perspective, Josh Allen is going to be my favorite play until we see his ownership come back up, right? Obviously, Saber Sim's going to need some updates, considering we just got this news maybe an hour ago, and we've had nearly a full touchdown added to the implied total for this game. That said, I do think Josh Allen's ownership comes up, but if he's sitting at 10 to 15%, I still think that's too low for quite possibly the best quarterback on the slate. Him and Dak Prescott really are dark horses for MVP. Josh Allen, if he didn't have as many interceptions, his EPA would be insane. What he finished with a positive EPA last week against Miami, despite 2 touchdowns and all that shit. It's crazy how good Josh Allen is. Anyways, that said, man, I think this just benefits him a little bit, giving a little bit of delay. And honestly, it gives them their offense a little bit more time to kind of work out some of the issues with Gabe Davis being out, right? Maybe he has a little bit more time to game plan with Khalil Shakur or whoever and get some more of those guys involved. But anyways, Josh Allen, if he's under 15% owned, he'll be my favorite play. Outside of that, man, I think you kind of got to be willing to rotate in some of these guys. This 6,200 to 6,500 tier, Jordan Love, Matt Stafford, Jared Goff, those will probably be the guys that I'm going to be targeting an awful lot. I know Dak Prescott's going to be the second chalkiest quarterback on the slate, if not the chalkiest. Again, let's see what happens with the Josh Allen ownership. But look, man, going back the other way, Matt Stafford getting that's $1,100, and you still got Kupp and Nakua you can stack up with him. Go out and get CeeDee Lamb or whatever to kind of get your exposure to the Cowboys game. I really think Matt Stafford is probably one of the better plays too.
Yeah, I think Matt Stafford going against this Detroit defense is in a good spot. Jordan Love is cheap, but I'd rather pay for Jared Goff even at 6,200. There's a lot of options here. I think you got to spread yourself out for sure. It's not like the 2-game slate where things are a little bit more concentrated and they make a little bit more sense. All right, running backs. I'm sorting by salary here. We got Kyren Williams is the most expensive running back. He's 7,300. James Cook, 66. Jahmyr Gibbs, 65. Aaron Jones, 63. Tony Pollard, 61. Look, you got David Montgomery, 62. We'll start at this range here. So Kyren Williams has a pretty tough matchup, but the dude's been putting up 95 yards a game. He's got, 12 rushing touchdowns this year. He can get involved in the pass game too. So, to me, if he's coming in as one of the higher owned running backs, which it looks like he might be, you could consider a fade just simply because of this Detroit defense. But I'm not convinced that, a guy like Kyren Williams can get absolutely shut down. This is a 3-game slate though, and we have some better environments for the run game. What are we doing with Kyren Williams here, man? And a guy like James Cook at 6,600, we know his upside. We know he can get massively involved, but he just doesn't have a lot of touchdown equity.
Yeah, I mean, look, so again, if we're looking for a cash play, single entry, I think Kyren Williams is fine. Even GPP, you're probably going to have a decent amount of exposure to him. But again, we're talking about a 3-game slate. You got guys like James Cook projected to be 15 to 20% owned. You said it yourself. Josh Allen has all these touchdowns. If they just give James Cook maybe 5 to 10% of those touches, right, all of a sudden the script is flipped a little bit, and James Cook is a little bit higher projection. there's a realistic chance that he gets a few more carries. That said, we got goal line snipers you got to be aware of. Lenny's going to steal one, maybe Murray. Looks like Latavius Murray has actually been kind of worked out of the rotation. I don't want to spend too much time on the Bills running back situation, but it looks like Lenny's going to be getting some more of those goal line carries. But like, I think you got to consider James Cook, just considering his ownership. And then just another one that sticks out to me real quick, David Montgomery being under 15%. That's also horse shit. Like, I mean, there's a guy that can get 2 touchdowns. We know it's David Montgomery in Detroit. And the Rams defense isn't anything to write home about, right? So again, one of the highest totals on the slate, you got a running back projected for under 15% ownership. That seems a little bit crazy, man.
And Aaron Jones, to me, obviously, with A.J. Dillon playing and Aaron Jones playing, I think that makes them kind of both better. But Aaron Jones is just going to be getting all the snaps now. And, he's had his time off this year. He's been injured. We're finally seeing him come into the Aaron Jones that we remember. And Aaron Jones is a guy that, on these massive games, sometimes we'll see him bust out with 2 or 3 touchdowns. He's 6,300. I know Dallas has a pretty good defense, but, I mean, come on, it's Aaron Jones. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren here, dude. We went to the well the past few weeks with these guys playing in weather-type games. Well, they're back in another weather game. Najee Harris, he's been scoring touchdowns. He's been getting involved. Jalen Warren has big play upside. Dude, these guys are 51, Jalen Warren, and Najee Harris 54. We're going to have to go back to the well again, right? Especially if both of these guys are under 20% owned.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, look, I don't see any other value at the running back position that I'm comfortable with playing. So, like, 5,100 for Jalen Warren, that's fine, man. That's a little bit of savings. We know that they're going to run the ball a shitload of, especially in the cold weather environment. There's no way Mike Tomlin comes into this game against Josh Allen and this awesome defense and says, Mason, you're going to get it done, right? Yeah. So, look, these guys could each have 15 to 20 touches themselves.
Yeah, 100%. You touched briefly on, the running back situation in Buffalo. Lat Murray was like a healthy scratch last week. We saw Leonard, playoff Lenny. We've been calling him Fat Lenny, but it's playoff time, so he's back. He's $4,400. I don't know that on a 3-game slate I'm interested in getting to much Leonard Fournette. But if you're looking for value, that is an option. And Ty Johnson too at 4,200. I know he's been out with a concussion or at least questionable. He's an interesting play here value-wise. I don't think there's really anybody else to talk about. Hunter Lipke, the fullback at 4K. This isn't Showdown. If it was Showdown and he's $200, maybe I'd be interested, but not on a slate like this. Let's get to wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb going up against Green Bay. They can't stop anybody. I mean, is this like a stone cold lock for you? It's gonna be hard to get to all these guys. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Puka Nacua, Jaden Reed. You got so many damn wide receivers, on this slate. I feel like this is a 4 wide receiver type slate for us when it comes to roster construction. You're going to get to 80, 90% CeeDee Lamb, right? Like, I don't know. I'm probably will.
Yeah, man. I don't see how you don't. I think again, we're gonna see some changes here. Just as we've seen the line movement in that Monday night game, or now the Monday afternoon game with the Bills. Diggs being under 10% owned is insane to me, right? Like, if he's truly going to be 7,400 projected for under 10% owned, then I mean, he's probably going to be one of my favorite one-off plays of the slate. I know that he struggled, but again, 7,400 against. Patrick Peterson's going to be covering him. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think the Steelers need to be praying that the weather is going to shut down Stephon Diggs. So, look, that's the only reason why I might come off a little bit of CeeDee Lamb. Is just because I'll be able to jam in a bunch of Stephon Diggs, but likely I'll be able to get both. So, I don't know how you come off CD. I don't know if there's anybody on the Packers that can guard him. I don't know if there's anybody in the NFL that can guard him right now. Dude's getting 15 to 20 insane targets a game, and it's still it doesn't matter. The ball's going to him. He's going to have 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, and look, getting to Amon-Ra and CD is going to be tough. Amon-Ra's 8K. I could see Amon-Ra outscoring CeeDee Lamb in this game. Like this, you got 2 games that could shoot out. I feel like you got to get a minimum of one of these guys and try to get maybe 2, but it's going to be hard. I know that we're getting a discount on Matt Stafford stacks. And if we wanted to grab, one-offs or run-backs with Amon-Ra and CD, that's a possibility. There's just so many damn good wide receivers here. Cooper Kupp is 75. Puka Nacua 72. I like that you brought up Stephon Diggs. I get that he hasn't had the best of years and this is a weather game, but no Gabe Davis. They're relying on some of these scrub type dudes to fill in. To me, you just attack Stephon Diggs, man. That's just my thoughts on it. Jaden Reed 5,700. We can't forget about him. Romeo Dobbs is 54. Look, let's talk about George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. This is a tough one. But Pickens, we can't forget about him, dude. He's projected to be around 4% owned. Now, I think that goes up because of the game moved a little bit. Pickens didn't even get a target last week, but we know he's got, 5-yard slant, take it to the house, 80-yard touchdown ability. Deontay Johnson actually kind of did that. He went deep. He scored some points. You got Brandon Cooks here at 4,900. I love him. He's always, it seems like every game he's getting a corner route in the back of the end zone touchdown opportunity. Dontavian Wicks, 4,800. I think it kind of matters what happens with Christian Watson. I'm high on Christian Watson if he plays. Remember that breakout game he had, I think it was last year, it was against Dallas. He had, 2 or 3 touchdowns? So there's a lot of guys in this range. You can't sleep on a guy like Demarcus Robinson, who has, 4 straight games with a touchdown, 3 straight games with a touchdown? He's been involved. There's a team he used to play for that could probably use him right now, in the Chiefs. I can name there's so many options wide receiver-wise here. Jameson Williams, Shakir now, had a great game last week. Sherfield's going to fill in for Gabe Davis. Bo Melton has been getting involved. So many options, dude. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, look, the obvious place to attack for value is just going to be Buffalo with Gabe Davis being out. But look, man, I still think Demarcus Robinson's in play again. The 2 highest totals, right? You got Demarcus Robinson and Jameson Williams in the same game in a dome. Both have elite, immense upside. That said, I don't know if Demarcus Robinson warrants 51% ownership. You should probably be closer to 20-25%, and that's just because there's several different guys, right? Trent Sherfield, you probably need to have a little bit of an exposure to. I mean, Gabe Davis is out. We know that he's the boom bust guy, but removing a guy that has elite touchdown upside, means you're plugging in other guys that are going to have the opportunity to go get something else done, right? I don't want to over explain it, but I really like kind of just using the Buffalo guys as a one-off for now. And plus that gives you a little bit of flexibility. If you come into the second game and you're like, I don't fucking like this guy as a one-off, I can go ahead and throw somebody else in. So if you're unsure of what you're doing for value, I would start with the latest the Slate game and then rotate from there as you get closer to other games that you like.
Yeah, no Khalif Raymond either. So we got Josh Reynolds and Jameson Williams. I'm always going to play Jameson Williams. I'm probably going to lose money to him this week, but I love the guy. He's 3,500. There's just so much value and so many under 5K. There's so many guys that I'd be comfortable playing, which is huge because there's a lot of wide receivers up in this top end range that I'm going to be jamming into most of my lineups. So I got to find some value somewhere. I think it comes at the wide receiver spot. It's really good for value. I think even more so than running backs. So let's get to tight end here. So Sam Laporta is not being projected for anything right now. There's a chance he plays. If he plays, he's 6K. He's going to be expensive, but I think you got to pair him with your Goff stacks at minimum. Jake Ferguson, 4,700, going up against Green Bay. We know Jake Ferguson can get involved. Dalton Kincaid. We saw both tight ends for Buffalo do well last week. Pat Freiermuth is 36. Tyler Higbee's questionable at 34. You got Kraft and Musgrave right in that same area here as far as salary goes. I don't know how much I'm interested in them because I just don't know where those snaps go. Does Musgrave coming back from the injury in his second game back, does he get all the snaps? I don't know. Brock Wright is interesting at 3K if Laporte is out. But, dude, Dawson Knox is 2,900 again. Are we going back to the Dawson Knox well? What's your favorite play here? Let's say Sam Laporta is out. What's your favorite play?
I mean, probably whoever starts there, Brock Wright or James Mitchell, whatever happens at Detroit. But look, man, right now, Dawson Knox, 2,900 is just too easy of a play. This is a perfect game. Like again, James Cook isn't getting the volume inside the 5. So you run a play action and just one dump off pass to Dawson Knox in the end zone. That's enough to pay off 2,900. That said, I think I disagree with you a little bit on the Green Bay side. I don't think Musgrave plays this week. I know he's been activated, but there's a reason why they put him on IR. Tucker Kraft's been balling out. He's been playing excellent at the tight end position. And some of this, I found some shit on Twitter. I wish I would have sent it to you, but there's some stats that kind of justify Tucker Kraft potentially being a better tight end than Luke Musgrave. Now, that's a bit of much saying, considering where the offense is they're developing. But I like Tucker Kraft, man. 3,300. I think that he's a fine play. And then I think Tyler Higbee at 3,400 is another guy I'm really interested in. There's just a lot of volume in this Rams offense that I think you can open up opportunities for these guys. That said, I don't know that I agree with the ownership on Tyler Higbee. That I don't know if I would be willing to play him in a single entry or cash game. I don't even know if I'd be willing to do that with Jake Ferguson either. I still think you probably want to go down to one of these cheaper tight ends for single entry or cash.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Ferguson on paper has the good matchup, against this Packers defense. They're 23rd in rating allowed to tight ends. So I think he's going to be popular. But if Sam Laporta plays, I don't think you can avoid him. I mean, you maybe don't go super heavy on him just in case if it's one of the situations where he's trying to push through an injury and not really ready to come back, but it's a playoff game and maybe he doesn't even finish the game. That is a worry. But you got to get to some of him, especially in GPPs. All right, let's go to defense. So the obvious route to take here is target, the Bills defense going against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, yes, Mason Rudolph has looked good. He's put together some good offensive games over the last few weeks, but Bills defense just has a clear advantage. Even if this wasn't a weather game, you probably want to consider them. I know they're the second most expensive defense, but weather game, Buffalo, and even some Pittsburgh. I personally don't think I'm going to go that range, but they're 2,600. So if they fit your lineup and it's a perfect lineup that you love, well, maybe you consider them. What are you doing defense wise, dude? Like there's a lot of high total games here, minus that weather game on Monday. You spreading yourself out, or are you just focusing a lot of your exposure on Bills?
I'll probably spread myself out. I will have a decent amount of exposure in the Bills, but I don't want to overcommit. Just because, again, it is a 3-game slate, and now the Bills game is kind of an island on the 3-game, right? Like if you play the Bills defense, you're just stuck with the Bills defense come Monday. So I want a little bit of flexibility. I'm not going to be all in. That said, man, like again, like the Rams defense isn't very good, but I do think that there's a world that, Jared Goff also isn't that good. Right. They can get a couple sacks. Aaron Donald could blow up this defensive line, a couple sacks and maybe a pick six. Like all of a sudden, some of these other defenses start to become valuable. So look, man, if you have a defense under 10% owned on a 3-game slate, I still think that they're viable for GPP. Cash, just play the Bills.
Yeah, totally. All right. So let's look at value here briefly. Let me switch over. So if I just sort by value in SaberSim, Demarcus Robinson, he's getting some massive love right now. He's the highest projected owned player on the slate as of now. That'll probably change, but he's 3,600. And if you look at this guy's numbers, I think he's gotten like over 12 fantasy points, like in quite a few games here in a row. So Demarcus Robinson right now seems like the chalky value play going up against Detroit's defense. You probably can get him as one-offs or in stacks. Who else jumps out to you? And do you think the Demarcus Robinson love, considering all these pretty decent wide receivers we have in that price range, do you think that's warranted at 51% ownership right now on a Friday?
Absolutely not.
Or Saturday?
Well, it's Saturday.
Yeah,
but
my bad.
Yeah, it's cool. Tyson. Yeah, his birthday was Thursday. He drank all night, so he blacked out a day.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So now you're back on track. Anyways, yeah, D-Rob being 51% is fucking psychopathic. Just remember, guys, he does not play good NFL football. Like, there's a reason why he's the third wide receiver on the Rams, right? Like, he couldn't even make it with the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs could probably use him right now, like you said earlier in the show. So, like, again, like 51% is insane. I think probably closer to 20-25%, but there is enough value on the slate that I think you can rotate other pieces out, right? Jamison Williams, whoever, with Josh Reynolds, right? Josh Reynolds used to be on the Rams too, right? Like, he's a viable play. Again, there's just enough people that are out on this slate that I don't think you need to 50% one dude. So, but that said, D-Rob for cash if he's going to be owned 50%.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to our lineup builds here. So obviously, as injury news and stuff comes out, guys, we're going to be in the Discord talking about stuff. Make sure you guys jump into that Discord. Throw us a like on this video. We want to get to 2,000 subs. We're pretty close. We're getting there. I think we're probably about 1,800 right at the time of recording. So hit subscribe, and obviously we're going to be having tons of shows throughout playoffs, and then we'll transition into UFL, the Spring League. We're going to do a ton of content on that. And if you guys are interested in supporting the channel, hit join down below. That's our YouTube members. We're doing a show. We're doing the Rams and Lions Showdown Show specifically for you guys. About an hour-long show, really diving into it. So if you guys want to support the channel, help us out, hit join. All right, let's start building, dude. So for single entry, let's assume we're doing a $50, $100 single entry that we're hand building. Let's start out. Where are we going, dude? Is this a Stafford situation, Goff situation, or are you just saying screw it? You're going with Josh Allen?
I think we start with Dak, just because he's probably going to be the highest owned quarterback, and just see what the likelihood is of getting that Dak CD stack into.
Let's get Dak, CD, and Ferguson together, because I think Ferguson will be the highest owned tight end, at least right now, without the Laporta news. And then from there, let's grab our running backs. What are we thinking? You think Kyron Williams is or James Cook here? One of these guys?
I mean, honestly, I think we should start with one of the Steelers guys. Like, I'm fine with Pollard or Harris or Warren for cash, just because of their price.
Yeah, let's start there. Now let's go to wide receiver. So let's figure out what we got to get to here. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Do we want to do? We got to get to that game, that Detroit LA game. So we trying to get Amon-Ra and Puka potentially. I don't know that we can afford it, but you want to start with Amon-Ra?
Start with Amon-Ra. Just go ahead and throw in D-Rob. I mean, yeah, I think that's why he's 51% owned, right?
Yep, exactly. So we got, two spots here and a defense. Running back, we're not getting to Kyron Williams in this lineup. So do we want to go like Aaron Jones? Do you want to go to Pollard even against the shitty Green Bay defense? We got to find some mid-range value that we're comfortable with here.
Here, let's start. Okay, can you throw in? Let's throw in the Bills defense.
Okay,
let's just get that out of the way, right?
Yeah. 4,100.
Okay.
Spots.
This might sound crazy, but let's just see what happens if we throw in Dawson Knox in that last flex spot.
All right, let's try it. We're gonna have to do something crazy because we're not quite getting to Pollard here, but see, this is where she gets weird. Like Jaylen Warren. What if we came down from Najee Harris and went with Jaylen Warren instead? Does that get us anything? It doesn't. It's a double Steelers running back type situation. What about instead of Ferguson, you want to go down to Knox?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I was going to say leave Fergie in, just come off of Amon-Ra, maybe go down to Kupp or Nakua.
Well, let's try it. Let's try Knox now instead of Ferguson and see if that does anything for us. Warren, because we have plenty of wide receiver value that we can fit into that flex if we need to. We got about 10,000. So what if we, can we get? Let's try Pollard here and look at the $4,200 guys and see if anything jumps out to us.
Why is it only showing you running back on flex?
Well, it's not. It's just.
Oh no, never mind. It's just 4K is the min, and that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, all the running backs are kind of there. Let's see. Let's get down to wide receivers. Josh Reynolds, Shakir. I don't hate that.
Yeah, I don't hate Shakir.
I'm not super comfortable. I mean, look, Dak Prescott. The stack is a little bit expensive, so we're not going to be fully comfortable. But if you're listening on podcasts right now, we kind of ended up with something like Dak Prescott, Warren, Pollard, Lamb, St. Brown, Robinson, Knox, Shakir, and Bills defense. Let's build with somebody else though. Let's go down to Goff, dude, at 6,200. You want to try a Goff lineup, or are you building any single entries with Goff, or are you just going to pay up a little bit and go to Stafford?
I might go pay for Stafford, but I'm fine building with Goff. It's really not that big of a deal. They're pretty interchangeable.
Let's see, because he's so cheap. Let's just see what we can get out of it.
Yeah.
So let's go Amon-Ra. Let's go CD Lamb. Let's get a running back here that we like. You want to go James Cook? You want to go Gibbs? You want to fit Gibbs in a stack here potentially with him? Or
Yeah,
you
let's throw in Gibbs.
All right, let's put D-Rob in again. And you could pretty much... Oh, that's the wrong Robinson. We don't want that. There he is. 3,600. You could change him out for somebody else that you may like with all this value we have. Let's put Bills defense. All right. Now, tight ends, do you want to consider getting to Ferguson here?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can do it. So we have one running back spot open. We paid up for Gibbs. You want to go down to Harris or Warren?
Probably have to do Warren, but yeah, that's fine.
And then we got 3,400. So I think we're okay actually here. Shakir, it's another Shakir situation. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Considering, he's in the slot, the weather's looking a little bit better. Goff feels a little bit easier to build with. Now you could argue that you could pull Gibbs out, and you could get to Aaron Jones. You could get to Pollard if you like him more, but let's just start with Gibbs. You can't quite get to James Cook. That would have been interesting. But we got Goff, Gibbs, Warren, Brown, St. Brown, Lamb, Robinson, Ferguson, Shakir, and the Bills defense. Let's build some tournament lineups, dude. Who do you want to start with? You want to get weird? You want to go Josh Allen like naked or something? Josh Allen and a running back? What do you want to do?
Yeah, let's start with Josh Allen. Do Josh Allen. Let's not do naked, but let's throw in Shakir.
Okay.
I still prefer him over probably D-Rob.
All right. Now let's stack the shit. Like, okay, we got Allen and Shakir. You want to just stack the shit out of one of these other games, or do you want to do little 2v2 stacks or something, or you want to go like heavy on maybe the Rams and Detroit game?
I want to go heavy on Rams and Detroit, but I still want to get some pieces from the other one. Let's throw in. Can we throw in Pollard from the Dallas game?
Okay.
And then I kind of like Reed as a 1-1.
Okay. And then let's go heavy Rams Detroit.
Yeah.
Right? So do you want to do Amon-Ra and Puka? See how that goes?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right, running backs. We got 3,800. It's not bad. You want to pick a tight end first? You want to get to any of these? You want to get to Knox or anything, or you want to pick somebody else from another game? Higbee.
I actually kind of like Tyler Higbee. Yeah.
All right, let's try Higbee. Higbee's always one of these guys that just absolutely screws me when I don't play him. He just randomly shows up randomly in these weird games. What are we doing defense-wise? You want to go Dallas Cowboys here with Pollard?
Yeah, throw in the Cowboys.
All right, so these was 4,600. So, you got this is not probably, this is tournament build. So we can be okay with getting to a Leonard Fournette potentially. Is that interesting to you? A Lat Murray, a Ty Johnson. If not, we're going Pollard and Dowdle, which I don't think we want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. Let's pull out Higbee and throw in Dawson Knox and see if that gives us enough to get up to Jalen Warren.
It does. Sure does. So we got Josh Allen,
okay,
Pollard, Warren, Shakir, Reed, St. Brown, Dawson Knox, Puka Nacua, Cowboys. But look, we got to fade CeeDee Lamb in a situation like this. So that's a big downside to getting to Allen. So let's just game stack the shit out of this Rams Detroit game, right? You want to go Stafford here and get.
Yeah, let's do Stafford.
Get Puka, get Kupp. You want to get anybody else?
Okay,
Rams?
So hear me out. Yeah, throw in Higbee, and let's not even worry about Amon-Ra. Let's see if we can go both running backs. Let's go Montgomery, Gibbs.
Nice, dude. I like that.
All right, now one more, Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds. All right.
Bills defense.
Okay. We got a flex spot here. So in the flex, we could go Najee Harris from this game. You can go Jalen Warren. You could pretty much pick whoever you want in this situation. But in the flex, we're gonna want to get to a guy. You know, if it works out for your lineup, that's if you can in the last game. Let's try that. Stafford, Kupp, Nakua, Higbee, and then you run it back with Gibbs, Montgomery, Reynolds. I like that. You got Najee Harris, and with the Bills defense, it's not bad, dude. That's 0% salary left. That's pretty interesting. But you're also pretty unique with the Gibbs and Montgomery handcuff there. All right, what else, dude? You want to do this Green Bay Dallas? You want to game stack the shit out of that?
Yeah, we'll do one. Let's do
Love.
Yeah, let's do Love quarterback, man.
I just want to try the salaries out. Like, everybody's going to be getting to similar type stuff. They're going to have to be making tough decisions with value when you do Dak. So let's just try a Love. So, like I said, dude, if Christian Watson's in, I'm playing him. You want to get to Watson and Reed?
Yeah.
All right, run it back with CD.
Own Kraft, man.
You want to do Kraft too?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to CD here.
I'm gonna overstack these games probably too much, man. Like it's just too much.
Yeah. Let's just plug in Bills right off the bat. You know, obviously there's other options, but let's just make that easy and make that our decision. Running back wise, where are we going here? You want to get to some Kyron? You want to get to some James Cook? We want to match up Cook and Bills?
Yeah, I was gonna say Cook. Can we afford Kyron and Cook though? Is that possible?
Let's try. 3,800 in the flex spot. So if you want to punt at one of these wide receivers, absolutely. Josh Reynolds, Robinson. That's probably why he's so damn popular, because you're able to do this. Jamison Williams, Shakir. You're able to get to any of these guys. So this is a decent stack. You got Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Kraft. And then you got Kyron Williams, James Cook, a CD Lamb run back, and then fill in this last flex spot. Not bad, dude. This is pretty interesting. So thoughts overall, man. What'd you learn after we spent all this time building, man?
I think the one thing that I learned the most is just it's not as crazy to build as I thought it was going to be. Gabe Davis being out helps open up a little bit of flexibility. And then just really one thing that I'm trying to pound into my head, right, is we've seen almost a full touchdown plus added to this implied total for the Buffalo Bills game. So I'm not changing my strategy all that much. I do know that there's going to be issues throwing the ball and things like that. It's still going to be tough to play in that environment. Yeah. But a full touchdown is pretty significant in the NFL. So that's something to keep in mind as we get closer to lock.
Yeah, I think we got to really just kind of see where the weather lands, since that's on Monday. And if it's easing up even more, maybe we get to some more Josh Allen stacks. Maybe we get to a little bit more of that offense with maybe a still low ownership potentially, because people are a little scared still. What else did you learn roster construction wise? Feels like we want to probably go 3 wide receivers and then throw a wide receiver, one of these value guys potentially in the flex maybe. This probably feels like a 4 wide receiver slate and 2 running backs. Does that seem pretty valid to you?
Excuse me. Yeah, man. Wide receivers where all the value is. I wasn't really comfortable with a lot of the value tight ends. Obviously, you see Dawson Knox getting into a bunch of the lineups there. But outside of that, man, there's just so much in that 3,800 and below range, especially with Gabe Davis being out, that I think you got to spread yourself out and really just not play 51% Demarcus Robinson. That's crazy.
Yeah. So stay tuned, guys. For our YouTube members, we're going to have that Rams-Lions Showdown slate. We'll have that out tomorrow for you guys. And then depending on what they do with this Monday, if maybe they make it a 2-game slate as well and there's some overlap, I don't know how that works. But either way, we're going to have another Monday show for you guys, whether it's just the Showdown or if it's a 2-gamer. Make sure you guys hit subscribe. We will see you guys later.